For the graphic design final exam project, we will be illustrating a burger or sandwich. In my opinion, I think burger is a little bit simpler, but if you'd like to do something more like a sandwich, feel free. So, our goals for the final exam are that we want to create an illustration of basically toppings between bread. You're going to use some of the shape tools you've learned about in Illustrator. You're welcome to use the pen tool, pencil tool. Pretty much anything you know from Illustrator is going to be fair game. Um, Another more important part of the project is that we want to have a correct order. So, in this case, I don't want anything to be behind when it should be in front. So, if you look at my lettuce here, you could tell that I can see it hanging off my tomato. It's not tucked behind it. So, we use the arrange function for that. And then lastly, we're going to have a reflection the day of the final exam. I will post it that day. That's 20 points of the assignment, and you're going to discuss what your ingredients are and basically how you made each topping in your burger. So the burger illustration itself will be 80 points, the reflection will be 20. So the requirements for the burger illustration is that it has to have two or more pieces of bread or buns, whatever you may call them. And then there needs to be at least four toppings in between the bread. So it's up to you how you want it to be. You can feel free to look up some burgers in Google to get some ideas. It doesn't have to be like your standard burger. You can put some stuff on there that's a little exotic. Totally feel free. So generally, there's some kind of protein patty. So like some kind of burger, veggie burger, something along those lines. Okay. You may also be interested in adding vegetables, lettuce, onions, tomatoes, pickles, whatever. It doesn't have to be what's on my list. There's options for cheese, like the toppings like condiments, sauce, whatever, or other things you may think of like bacon or it could be like kimchi, lots of different options. So you don't have to use what's on my list. This is just like here for inspiration. But I am asking that you don't copy my burger directly. So we're going to use Adobe Illustrator to create it. It's mostly made of rectangles, circles, things like that. And we can make some adjustments with the paintbrush. And we've learned the last few days about Shape Builder, pen tool, making some adjustments with the white arrow, how to do shadows. So there's a lot of different options you can add to it to kind of jazz it up. Um, like we said at the end, we will have a reflection. So your rubric is right here, where most of it is based on the composition and how you designed your ingredients. And then the last part is going to be the reflection. So when we go into Illustrator, we'll go to File, New, and it's usually easiest to go to the tab at the top that says Print and Letter. Generally, it really doesn't matter if you want to keep your paper vertical or horizontal, landscape, the wide one, or portrait, the tall. It's up to you. It's really personal preference. I'm going to go landscape. Okay, perfect. So, if your burger ends up not fitting on your paper, at the end we can adjust the size, which is very helpful. So, I like to look at a burger from the internet to kind of gauge some kind of inspiration. So, if I'm looking at this one here, just to give me some kind of inspiration, I want to start either usually at my bottom and make my way up. So, I'm going to start with a little patty at the bottom, um, and I want like a tannish color. So, browns can sometimes be tricky to create here. I mean, you can go to like the orange category and try and pick out a brown, but sometimes it's ugly. So you can go to window, swatches before you start. And there's a lot of like sample browns there that make life a little easier. I'm going to pick maybe that one. Personally, for this project, I don't like to have a stroke. So this little border square, I'm going to hit the no smoking sign, and then I don't have it. So let's look at my shapes, and nothing about a burger is like super geometric sharp. So I'm going to go with like a rounded rectangle tool for that one. Yeah. Something like that seems pretty good. As you can tell when you look at one, because the patty or the buns are usually kind of rounded, they have a little bend to them. So there's a really easy way to give our burgers that effect. I'm going to go into my pen tool, which generally looks like that one, and I'll hold it down to use the anchor point tool, also known as the caret. I'm going to grab that line and just pull both of the walls of the rounded rectangle just down a little bit. So you can see it's got a nice little curve to it. I didn't have to do much, but it makes it look a lot more sophisticated than what it was before. Next, I'm gonna just do a plain burger, like a beef patty. Okay, so I need something dark brown, and I'm gonna say it's kind of the same shape. All right, so I need a rounded rectangle, and I'm gonna go with a really dark brown for the patty, and I'm gonna let it hang off the patty a little bit too. I want it thicker. And I'm going to do the same thing I talked about before, using my anchor point tool to kind of grab the edge and adjust. This one's giving me a little hard time because it's overlapping a little, but kind of grab in the middle and adjust. And then if I want to make like this a little bit more rounded, I could do that too. I'm only going to do a little bit, but it makes it look a little bit more like a patty. And let's say you want to make your patty a little thinner. You don't want it as chunky. I'm going to use my black arrow, and I could shrink it down, make it really thin, make it really beefy, whatever you want. Alrighty. Next, I'm going to go in. So I have one topping already, and I need at least 3 more. And you can do more than 4 elements. It's totally your call. So I'm going to do cheese. And if you look at the shape of the way cheese melts on a lot of these burgers, sometimes they look like triangle effects. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to show you how to make a triangle. Obviously, you don't see one in our little shape menu here. But if you go to our friend, the polygon tool, it's like a hexagon. I'm going to make it yellow. Oop. Let's click off of that patty. And then I'll use my polygon tool to select the yellow. Right now you can see it's got 6 sides. So I haven't let go of my mouse, and I'm going to hit the down key on my keyboard 3 times. 1, 2, 3. And as you notice, it turns into a triangle. I'm going to right now make it kind of wide like that, but I don't want it to be so equal. So I'm going to use my white arrow. Oh, not what I want. That would round it a little bit, which is not what I'm looking for. So I'm going to like double click on this anchor little point at the bottom, and then I'm going to push it up like that. That's more of what I'm talking about. Let's use my black arrow to move it over. I'm probably just going to put 1 piece of cheese. I don't really want multiple. Now, maybe I want to make this edge a little rounded. I don't want it so sharp. I can double click on this little white dot here, and it like rounds out my cheese a little bit, so it's not so sharp. All right, cool. That looks pretty good. All right, so I have 2 toppings so far. I need at least 2 more. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do onions, and then I think I'm gonna do lettuce, and then a top bun. So let's chat about the onions. I actually did those on my original too. So the cool part about an onion is that they're kind of transparent. They're a little bit see-through in life in general. Like they call this red onion, even though it's kind of purpley. So I actually lightened the opacity on this, which was kind of cool. So here's my plan. Make sure I clicked off of everything. I'm going to pick out a purple here. And I think I'm going to go rounded rectangle again. Usually the onions aren't huge. And I'm going to use that little anchor point tool to give it that little curve again, nice and equal. And let's click on it with the black arrows because I want to edit the whole thing. I'm going to go to my opacity at the top. I'm going to lighten it. I don't need to do it that much, but maybe like 60-ish. It kind of gives that like onion feeling. So I'm going to put that on here. And I'm going to alt click to make multiples. You could even kind of grab it outside the corner and make it kind of uneven, which is cool. You can put a lot of onions on there. You do you. Very cool. All right. So you can see the order looks pretty good, which is nice. If you ever need something's falling behind or needs to be put in front, you can right click on it, arrange, and send to back or send forward. So maybe I want one like behind like that. It's up to you about the order. And then I said I was going to show you how to make lettuce. So you can draw something freehand with the pen tool. I know you don't have a ton of experience with that. So here's my best suggestion here. You can look around. Usually you see this thing called the shaper tool. And under, like, in the next row down is the pencil tool. So I'm going to go with lettuce. I'm going to make it like a light green, I think. Okay. And I want my lettuce to be sort of like free-handed like this. It's definitely not going to look super exact, but that's kind of the look I'm going for. You can even do it in like bigger chunks like this too. So there's definitely not a shape that is similar to lettuce. So I'm going to draw it freehand. So the key is if you're going to draw something, you just have to close the shape so it gets filled up. So watch me here. And I know this looks ugly now. Don't worry. I'm just kind of making these long triangular elements here. I'm trying not to let go. And then it can be kind of rough at the top. But the key is that I'm closing it up. You can see that little dot up here on my pencil. Okay, perfect. So right now it has no fill and no stroke. So let's fill it with green, which looks pretty cool. Let's say you're like, oh, I hate this like little piece here and I want to adjust it. Well, it's all selected. If you draw over it with your pencil, bam, it will adjust it for you, which is pretty cool. So maybe I want to add like another little element like that. As long as it's selected, you can see that blue outline on it, you could readjust it, which I think is pretty cool. So maybe I want like multiple colors of lettuce. So let's make another one. But I don't want it to be exactly the same, so let's make it like something like light green maybe. And oh, here's something cool I could do. I could flip it, right click on it, transform, and I can reflect. Just press OK. And now it's like a mirror image of it. So I'm going to place that on top too. So I'm going to count all this lettuce as one topping because it's all lettuce. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I actually have 4 toppings now, which is pretty sweet. Like I said, if you want to do more and they look halfway decent, that is a great thing for your grade. So let's talk about making a top bun. There's a lot of ways you can do that, and I know buns all look so different. A lot of them are like these kind of half circle situations, and you can do the sesame seeds too, which are pretty. So I want this brown, so I'm going to click back on the lower bun so that my top bun matches the top. I like to use the circle tool for this. I know it's going to seem weird in a minute, but let's try and just visualize the top and not the bottom in this case. Okay. I'm going to make it a little smaller. I didn't like that. All right, around something like that. Okay. Now, with your circle still selected, you're going to use your eraser. And it's pretty small. I can use my brackets to blow it up. And what I'm going to do is go along the bottom and I'm kind of make it kind of curvy. Try not to make it too jagged. Like that. And then I also need to get rid of that little sliver I had there. Because only the brown circle was selected, it's only going to delete that stuff. And then I'm going to use my arrows. I may take off a little bit more just because I can't see a lot of the toppings. So let's do that. Again, it's not going to delete all the other stuff underneath it. I know it looks like it's going to. And if something terrible happens, you can always Control Z to undo it. So as we're working on this, you're seeing this theme that we're trying to make it kind of like curved to give that nice three-dimensional effect. Okay. Another cool thing, if you're interested in doing sesame seeds, let's click off of here. And I'm going to pick like a lighter tan color. You can use your circles for that. Let's zoom in. So you can make a circle, use your white arrow, and double click on one of the edges of the circle and kind of pull it up like that. And those will make really nice sesame seeds. Those are kind of small. I can rotate them, make them look kind of random. Yeah, I think that size is better. I can alt click and kind of scatter them by rotating them. And that gives you a nice effect too. So the more detail that's well done on your burger, that's going to help your grade. If you're going to do the marinade, that's fine. It should look decent. But the more you add, the better it's going to look. So the more you can do, you have a lot of time to do so, it will work out much better. You can also go back in and add little details like with your, sometimes I like to use like the paintbrush tool too. So let's click off of my burger. Maybe I'll try and toss some ketchup in there. If you ever want to add a little something like that. Not all of them look fantastic. So if you want to have something on there, I know it kind of looks like Microsoft Paint, but here's a cool function. You can click on that piece of ketchup itself, and you've got this thing called uniform, and sometimes it lets you do different options, and you can change the brush type. These are just like a handful of options. I know that's not exactly what we're looking for, but there are some other options here for different types of brush strokes. Perhaps you learned about that, not sure. So something like that, and I can increase the stroke. Oh, that looks a lot more ketchupy. So that could give you a nice option too. Now, right now it's like in front of my patty, and I don't want that. So I'm gonna go to Window, Layers, and if you hit the drop down, you'll pretty much see everything here. So I'm gonna take this ketchup, I'm gonna tuck it underneath that top bun, so that way I get my order correct too. You can use Arrange, but if that's giving you a hard time, feel free to try using your layer panel and adjusting it that way. Okay, so at this point, everything fits on here pretty well. I want to occupy most of the paper though. So I'm just going to use my black arrow. I'm going to like select everything by drawing a box around it. Then I can hold my little shift key and I can just blow it up. So that way it's filling up most of my paper. This was a really basic one for the demo, but you can make it like a double burger with two things of protein. You can put extra cheese. You can put more toppings than I had. All of those things will help your grade positively. So at the end, I want you to make sure you go and you check your um, project outline here and you make sure you filled all the requirements I'm asking for. And then please go into Google Classroom and complete the reflection.